Hello and welcome to the Boundary Books YouTube channel. You can find out everything about Boundary Books on our website, which is www.boundarybooks.com, and you'll see on there that we've been issuing for some time now catalogues by email, and we call them e-alerts, and we finally reached e-alert 100, and to celebrate that we thought we'd try little videos on YouTube. See what our customers think of them, just to give a better feel for what the book actually looks like. So this is the first video for to show the items in e-alert 100, and we've started off actually with a few autographs rather than books. And just to give you an idea, we've got a very nice autograph of WG on a nice piece of card, dark black ink, lovely autograph, and a few team sheets just to show you the size of them. That's the Yorkshire sheet from 1933. More unusual, Sir Julian Cahn's 11 from 1936, and a couple of slightly smaller ones, Australians 1938 touring team, the whole squad, all 16 players. And a similar size one, a nice one, of the Somerset team of 1928, team that played at Trent Bridge. So that's just an example. We've got thousands of autograph sheets like that in stock, but you might find something you like there. To get on with the books, the first book on the catalogue is by Neville Weston. It's a bibliography of the rare old cricket book, The Cricketer's Manual by Batt, and it's a small little item. Neville Weston was an interesting man. He was a solicitor from Kidderminster, and he in the 1930s he began to build a very fine cricket library, rare books. Bought a lot of books from the Reverend R.S. Holmes. Later in life he became really the great expert on W.G. Grace, and built a fabulous collection on Grace. But back in the 30s, when this book was produced, he was very keen on bibliography, and this is long before there was ever a Padwick or a Goldman. These bibliographies, the collectors had to do it for themselves back then, and he published his findings. But he, being a collector, he published them in lovely little limited edition books. So this one is only 20 copies, numbered and signed by the author. It was typical of Weston's work. They're lovely little things. This one's in super good condition, and we've also got two others by him in this particular sale. Another bibliography, all about the classic cricket book by Nyren, originally published in 1833. This is a bibliography of all the editions. Again, only 20 copies produced, signed and numbered, and a delight for collectors of old books. Everything you would want to know. This copy was owned by Charlie Wallace, CIS Wallace, who was also a cricket historian and a close friend of Weston's. And the third one in this series of Weston books is History of a Portrait. It's all about a self-portrait painting by Felix Nicholas Wannestrocht. That's the painting. Weston bought this. He owned this painting most of his life, and he wrote this little book about the history of the picture. He issued it in an edition of 10, just sent to his friends, and then when he had more friends than 10, he had to issue another 3. So there were only 13 copies ever produced. This is number 12, and it's a very nice copy of a rare item. Next in the list, something not quite so exotic. A history of Derbyshire cricket, produced in 1936, but only complete up to the 1935 season, when Derbyshire came second in the championship, and that was considered a great achievement. But of course, the following year they won it. but that was the year after the book was produced. The book has the loose insert photograph of the team, which, because it's loose, is often missing, but this one has it, and it's a very nice production, and quite hard to get these days. Then we have an even harder book to get. It's the only copy we've ever had in stock here in the last 25 years, from the Bendigo United Cricket Club in Australia, and it's their Jubilee Souvenir, produced in 1911. A very nice copy of the book, well illustrated, the old teams, and some of the old, there's Midwinter, I think he played for Australia and England, didn't he? And Boyle, the great Australian bowler of the Victorian era. Anyway, the book itself must have been produced in small numbers. It's a very nice copy, very hard to find. Even more exotic, Cricket in America, in Philadelphia. This is an item from, what year? 1904. There's some reminiscences of cricket in Philadelphia before 1861, so long before baseball had supplanted cricket as the national sort of game. Reminiscences by William Roch Wister. Again, it's quite a detailed book, full of scores, stories of matches, and this particular copy, you might not be able to see that, it's quite faint, but signature of ownership of F.S. Ashley Cooper, so it was his copy. Got a price written in by Leslie Guttridge. Closer to home, reminiscences of David Hunter, the genial Yorkshire stumper. So he was a Yorkshire and I think England wicket-keeper, and the book was produced in 1909. There's Hunter with his dog. It's a frail thing. The covers are quite frail around the edges, and but this is a nice copy, and again quite hard to find. This is quite different. This is something printed on like newspaper print, really, newsprint. It's a who's who in the cricket world by John Nix Pentelow, who was quite a student of cricket history, and it was produced in 1921 as a supplement to a comic, The Marvel, which is why it's hard to find these days, because it's on this poor paper and was just almost a throwaway with a comic. You seldom find copies, but it's extremely useful. It goes through all the players of the time, and gives a lot of detail that at the time was hard to find, births and deaths records, this sort of thing. We take it for granted because we've got the famous Who's Who by Philip Bailey, Philip Thorne and Peter Wynne Thomas. That information's at our fingertips, but in 1921 it wasn't, and it was people like Pentelow that really set that story going. So a nice copy of an important book. We have a lot of county histories and books on counties. One sort of scarcer one I've included in this catalogue is by Alfred J. Gaston, famous dealer, collector, writer, historian, publisher, mainly associated with Sussex Cricket. Anyway, this is his history of cricket in Sussex, from the earliest records to the present time, produced in 1898. So a beautiful little book, well illustrated, and in smashing condition with its original covers, spine, all as issued. So a nice collectible item. Moving on to Kent, Sevenoaks. Sevenoaks Cricket and the Vine Cricket Ground, a very historic venue. This is a little booklet produced by J.S. Richardson in 1909. There it is. Story of the ground and cricket in Sevenoaks from the earliest times up until 1909. It's a slim volume. It's got a little bit of an ink mark on the back, unfortunately, but you don't find it every day, and it's a nice Kentish item. Then moving on to one of the great names in cricket history, not as a player but as a bibliophile name, F.S. Ashley Cooper, Frederick Samuel Ashley Cooper, who spent his whole life devoted to cricket statistics, history, writing books, produced a lot of his work in small limited editions which have become very rare and highly collectible. Started in the 1890s and worked up to the 1920s. We've got a lot of his books in stock, but a few of the nicer ones on this catalogue. This one is Sussex Cricket Champions, a record of their doings from 1815 to 1901, published in Brighton by Ashley Cooper in 1902. It's not a limited edition, but it's very, very hard to find, and this is a beautiful copy. Here's a much slimmer volume by Ashley Cooper, Lancashire versus Yorkshire at the wicket, produced in 1924, I think, so much later in his life. It's a slim volume of statistics about the Lancashire-Yorkshire Roses matches, but again, like much of his work, where would you find a copy like that in its original covers? Just going to have a slurp of coffee. A more elaborate book by Ashley Cooper, the story of the Eton versus Harrow matches, which was published in a sort of ordinary trade edition, 1922, but this is the limited edition version that he produced. It's in full black leather, all edges are gilt, headbands, tailbands, nice end papers. It was produced in an edition of 100 copies, signed and numbered by Ashley Cooper, and often these have gone badly worn round the spine, but this is a super copy in its original state. Then we've got another full-length book Ashley Cooper produced. It's a biography of E.M. Grace, W.G. Grace's brother, known as the coroner, a very lively and interesting character. There he is. This was produced in the middle of the First World War, 1916 this was published. It's a very interesting and full account of E.M.'s life, and this particular copy was presented by Ashley Cooper to the Reverend R.S. Holmes, who was one of the main collectors in the early part of the 20th century, and it was his copy as a letter from Ashley Cooper to Holmes enclosed, and there are several annotations in the text by Holmes, adding personal notes of what he didn't do with E.M. Grace. Later on, it was in the collection of Bertram Wackley, who was a judge. Judge Wackley had a great cricket collection. And the final Ashley Cooper book in this catalogue, it's probably the rarest. It's Cricket 1742 to 1751. You might think an obscure topic. It's before the Hambledon days. It's the result of Ashley Cooper's researches in the old newspaper files, long before we could do it on the internet. You had to do it, days and days in the museums and the libraries of London, looking at these old records, and dug out a lot of information. and he produced them in a private edition of only 15 copies and presented them to his friends and fellow enthusiasts. This one was to C.F. Adamson, presented in 1900 by Ashley Cooper. So there were only 15 to begin with, a rare book, and this one's nicely rebound with its original covers. So that's the first batch, and there'll be some more videos taking us through the rest of the alert. And if you enjoy them, great, and if you don't, I guess you've switched off by now. So thank you.